Time for some Type 40 extra Type 40 video exclusive content with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. Welcome back to the channel. This is where we scroll the view screen for the sights and the sounds of the Whooniverse, those fixed and not so fixed of talking points. Yes, so who's calling this time? Who's calling this time? I am happy to say I am joined by David Milling. He's a lifelong Doctor Who fan. He's a broadcaster and member of the Type 40 community too. First time on the channel. Hello, David.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good. But I understand there's been something getting your goat. I think we need to get that goat back for you. We need to reclaim the goat, don't we?
We need to request that the goat come back home. Really, please.
Call it gently home.
Yeah, because he's been how can I say, exploited quite badly, and we're talking about the goat of statistics and mainly ratings, really, because the reason how we met is basically on another Facebook page of a dear friend of ours, where I was sort of bemoaning the sort of Beavis and Butthead style YouTube sort of videos where they're taking great glee in the fact that they think that Doctor Who is dying because ratings aren't what they were in 1979 when there was no opposition. And what has really got my goat is, so it makes me sound frightfully dull, is a misrepresentation of statistics, because actually a 2.25 overnight rating at the moment is by no means disastrous. Yet, I know what you're going to say, but overall, what you need to look at is the chart placing for the week.
This sounds really, really juicy. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes, no doubt. This is Type 40 Extra. This is our before show, after show, and in between show to the live streams, the podcasts, and everything else that we do here at Type 40. There's always so much to talk about here in the Doctor Who universe. And as the year moves ahead now, we've got a whole new series behind us, lots to reflect on, lots to talk about on and off screen. It's an opportunity for fans like David and myself to get together, chew the fat, and pick over things, the things that we differ on and the things that we agree on, and get to know one another. And maybe we can come to some understanding, maybe, about this crazy old TV show that we love so much and the whole culture around it. Icons of the Whooniverse, the TARDIS, the Doctors themselves, all those calling cards, all those cultural touchstones that are part of the fabric of British culture, broader British popular culture. But deep within that, of course, there's us. There's the dedicated Doctor Who fans, David. There's the total and utter obsessives. And when groups of Doctor Who fans get together, I mean, whether it's just two, like you and I this time, or three or four or more, a couple of dozen even, there are certain conversations within those circles which are a perennial, aren't they? So like favourites, favourite Doctors, favourite companions, favourite stories, least favourites, because I think people love that even more, don't they? The negativity always plays better. So what's your worst? What annoys you the very, very most about X, Y, or Z? That stuff is never going to die out.
And even the bandrils. My love for the bandrils is well known within my friendship group of Doctor Who.
Absolutely. You got to love a bandril.
Absolutely.
Will we ever know if the bandril ambassador dresses to the right or the left? That's the deep question, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, but these are the questions. These are the questions that play on our minds, aren't they? Should the Doctor pursue, for example, relationships in the way, either romantic or sexual relationships, in the way that human beings do? That conversation is never really going to completely evaporate, and it probably hasn't since the 1996 TV movie. These things just go round and round and round like that. And we even debate between ourselves which part of screened episodes should be decanonized. So some of this is seemingly terminally circular.
It is, yeah. And I think that big question of should the Doctor pursue relationships is a massive issue, and one that may have had an influence on this season's ratings, particularly after I don't call it Rogue, I call it Rouge. that that episode, because of all the makeup and the all that sort of Bridgerton obsession that seems to be sort of like working its way through several dramas at the moment, and it's a bit like the Downton Abbey obsession of a few years ago. It seems like,
It's
oh my
exactly
word,
the same.
yeah, it's just sort of really.
It's Bridgerton's turn to be in the
Yeah.
eye of the pop culture storm in the same way it was Downton about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Say 18, 16, 17, 18 years ago, it was absolutely Doctor Who. But no show can stay in the eye of that storm absolutely indefinitely. Obviously, we've now got a whole season of Doctor Who in the rear view mirror. Starred Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. Massive restart. Incredibly significant and absolutely essential to the longevity of the show, the continued success, the endurance of Doctor Who. Unsurprisingly, the discussion of the ratings dominated throughout the run, the 7 weeks it was on screen, and it's continuing now. So, because this is something that Doctor Who fans actually never really stopped talking about, how many people watch it when it's screened on BBC One? It's the most notorious debate of all. I know some fans, particularly younger fans, who are bemused by this fascination, nay, obsession that many of us have with those viewing figures as gathered by Barb, of course, in Britain. No other TV series ratings have anywhere near the scrutiny that Doctor Who's do. Even the soap operas, David, why do you think that is?
It all goes back to 1989 and 1988, 87, when everybody's favourite Dalek and sort of tormentor in chief, Michael Grade, decided to schedule us against. There is the man himself. All praise the great one.
What a nasty man.
A nasty man, who decided to try and kill off the show deliberately by scheduling us against Coronation Street. So then figures started coming in where it started to go, oh my word, what happened if it goes below 4 million? What happened if it goes between 3.5 million? What happened if it goes below X figures? And I believe the decision to cancel the program was made after Battlefield episode 1. I might be wrong on that, but it certainly was quite early on in the last McCoy season, when it attracted 3.1 million viewers, which I think might have placed it outside the top 100 or round about near the end of the top 100.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember very well. Yeah.
The issue with that is that the sort of program sort of limped onto air because it wasn't really given any sort of publicity. And then also it was up against Brian Moore and Brian Clough on ITV hosting an England World Cup qualifier. Now, at that time, England hadn't qualified for Italia 90, and they were playing, I don't know, whoever it might be, and Bobby Robson's team.
So it was a crucial match.
Crucial match.
England matches do always command huge audiences, don't they, on British television, on network television?
Absolutely. And network television, can England win to qualify for the World Cup? Because I believe at that point they actually hadn't qualified. So you've got Bobby Robson's England team of Gaza and Lineker and all those Peter Beardsley and Hoddle and Waddle and all those sort of players playing, who are top draw anyway by themselves, trying to qualify for the England, get England into Italia 90, up against the launch of a new season of Doctor Who that has just sort of quietly crept onto the air. So,
and yes, which the BBC themselves had demonstrated not just a lack of confidence in, but a lack of interest in. They would continually sort of kick the dog, wouldn't they, whenever they could?
Oh, totally. Because if you think about it, 25 minutes of drama at prime time, 7:35 in the evening on a Wednesday. How many producers around the BBC would say, "Yeah, let's have a go at that, please. I'd like to have a go at that." Oh my word, we've got this sort of program that we are lumbered with in the drama department that really should be with the children's department, but the children's department don't want it, so we've got it, and we don't really want it anymore because we don't think like that. When you get that sort of depression about the fact that the stories haven't been all that brilliant, although I believe that season 25 is one of the best seasons of the 1980s, if not the 1980s. So you're coming off the back of 6.6 million from Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which, to be fair, was better than any of Colin Baker's last season and was getting back to sort of Peter Davison figures almost. You've had a triumphant end to the season, and then you commissioned it again because it's not quite reach the low figures that you want to, that you can basically take it to the vets and have it put down. But it's on.
They'd also got Sylvester and Sophie under contract as well, hadn't they? In fact, I think they'd got Sylvester for a fourth season as well. He was under contract to do more. Yeah. And Sophie was under contract to do a further 4 episodes, I think, or was it 6? But they were all under contract, so there was that too. I mean, I think that this actually does predate all of that a little, and it does involve Michael Grade, though. I think Doctor Who fans have been particularly obsessed with this. A particular vintage of Doctor Who fans have been obsessed in a particular way with this since 1985, when Grade pulled the plug, and the series was absolutely resolutely cancelled. And it got announced on the news that evening. It's even sends shivers up my spine just thinking about this, and that the face of Sue Lawley broke it to the nation whilst we're eating our tea. It was horrific, and Doctor Who fans responded in the way that we always do. We were outraged, we mobilised, and we did everything we could to save the show. Some of us more than others. Some of us even put together a charity single, which I know that people talk about that incessantly. But it was a huge part of the swell of affection and devotion towards the show. But sadly, and I agree with you, I think there were peaks and valleys, but largely it was more peak than valley when the series did come back into the schedules, particularly with Sylvester. There were lots of things to be excited about with Doctor Who again, but the show never really got out from under the shadow of all of that. And the next thing we knew, like 26 years worth of Doctor Who legacy that began in 1963 with these genuine legends on screen and total firebrands running the show behind the screens. It was all over, and it cut us really, really deep. And I think we had to understand why, David. I think that was it. We had to spend several years digging almost too deeply into what went wrong, when and why, and if it was to ever come back, we were determined that the same thing would never happen again and could never happen again. And even when Doctor Who did come back, a great many Doctor Who fans were still kind of waiting with one hand on a handrail, waiting for the iceberg to hit again, looking just out of our blind spot for something that could go wrong, particularly with these ratings. We were watching more closely than ever, and that has absolutely continued right up until the present day, with the third iteration of Doctor Who having started this year, or new Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, after a period of immense frustration of the series being driven hard into the ground by an incompetent showrunner and a hopeless star a couple of years ago. This looks a hell of a lot like Doctor Who's Last Chance. So I think that is why people are more obsessed than ever, more invested than ever, and could be going a little more forensic than ever, and the need be, because as you quite rightly say, times have changed. I don't want to lean on the BBC's party line, this thing about the way that we watch TV has changed, and they'll just hand wave pretty much everything and anything. But I don't disagree with the kernel of what you're suggesting.
And I think the fact is the world is completely different since 40 years, almost 40 years ago, when Sue Lawley and Nicholas Witchell made that horrendous sort of announcement. And I believe that they are more famous for that than when a group of lesbian activists broke into the News at Six studio, and Nicholas Witchell had to sit on them. They're actually more famous for that Doctor Who announcement than they were for the studios being invaded.
I'll tell you what, it's a dirty job, Nicholas, but somebody's got to do it, haven't they? So,
I'm sure he enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading that in his memoirs.
So I'm wondering, though, I mean, when it comes to the ratings, these facts and these figures, does the study of this, does it frustrate you? Does it bemuse you in the way it does younger fans who have come to this since the war zone of the 80s and those painful memories? Is this something that frustrates you, or is it simply something that you feel people have got wrong and they're looking at the wrong statistics in the wrong way? What is it?
It's essentially from a scientific point of view, because people will say, "Oh gosh, there's lies, dumb lies, and statistics," and that annoys me, because basically statistics don't lie. It's absolutely, you're putting that on the thing. It's basically, you've got raw data, so what you've got isn't a lie. What happens is when you introduce the problems occur is when you introduce bias or poorly designed experiments that have led to data being obtained, which then causes statistics to be faulty. Because say if you've got an experiment that is biased and not fair, you're only ever going to get biased results. So if you design something with a bias, you're going to get a bias. If you design something that is unbiased and is verified as unbiased, you will get unbiased results. But then if you are asked for the company that you're working for would like a certain spin on the results, what you then do is use an analytical model that is not suited to those results to get the answer that the company may wish you to get. For example, without getting boring, the data suggests that you should do a one-sided t-test, where the confidence is, you want to show that 95% on 95% confidence level that you can't reject your initial hypothesis, that you don't reject your initial hypothesis. Now, in some cases, or most cases, a one-sided t-test will give a completely different result than a two-sided t-test. And say, for example, whereby a two-sided t-test is more appropriate and you should use that model, you will get different results than if you use a one-sided t-test. So there is a way that you can manipulate data, and then what you produce is something completely incorrect, an inference that is completely incorrect, because you have used the wrong way to analyze the data. So statistics is a pure science until people get involved, if you see what I mean.
Well, I certainly know, David, that I absolutely, like everybody, I have my biases. I mean, I try to be conscious of them as much as one can, but I absolutely do have my biases. And I think everybody does to one degree or another. But you graduated in statistics, didn't you? So you have a background in this field.
Yeah, I do. I remember one of my first lectures, and we had a fellow Brummie, actually. Sadly, he's no longer with us, and he was a court expert for, shall we just say, people using statistics in a nefarious means to try and get lots of money. And he was obviously called as his specialism was in biometrics and pharmaceutical related statistical analysis. And what he said to us on our first day there is that you can either use statistics how you want to and be very, very rich but have no reputation, or use statistics correctly, be modestly well off and have a great reputation. It just depends which side you want to fall on within the moral debate. And he was a lovely man, and he certainly brought home the importance of this is a science which can be abused tremendously depending on who is funding you and what
Okay,
results they would like.
Okay, so if we look at the ratings to Doctor Who as the study, and the study of them as a kind of science, we're studying something in a scientific way. What you're saying then is that decade after decade after decade, the environment, the conditions of the experiment have changed, and therefore the variables, because that's what the variables are what point us in the direction of how to interpret the statistics. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, because if you look at the way that Barb have always done it, you've got a box that's attached to the main television set in the house. So no matter what that is tuned to, it will record you watching it.
That's right.
Now, if in modern terms, right, nowadays, how many TVs does average household have? We have the days of Sky, the Sky Hub, the Virgin or Virgin multi-room, Sky multi-room. Mm-hmm. We have, everybody has a telly in every room that they can watch Sky on. They've got tablets, they've got phones, they've got laptops.
So won't even class this as a TV anymore. We all carry one in our pocket, technically, don't we?
Absolutely. So if you're still running because this is the way we've always run it, if you're always running a situation that records overnight figures based on the main TV or the main sort of source in the house, then that is slightly outdated because it doesn't account for what little Johnny and little Mary and Dougie might be watching.
So that's a variable. So in these conditions, that's a variable. What other variables have you identified in this?
The fact that a lot of people now, including my daughter, will not watch a series until it is finished. So they will. There's and it started with video box sets, DVD box sets.
Oh, so they'll forego the weekly drop.
Yeah.
That, and Amazon do this as well, don't they? They put one episode out of Reacher a week or something like that. So they will forego that and think, no, I'll catch up when I can watch it all and I don't have to wait. I won't have to wait in between cliffhangers and that kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did the same with Good Omens series 2. I thought because I had stuff on in between in a few episodes that I meant that I'd have to take time out of stuff where I was busy and then try and catch up with it. I just identified the time.
No, David, I know plenty of people of our generation, never mind your daughters, I know plenty of people of our generation who have totally switched to this, I'll watch it when it's all dropped. I do it with some shows. I wouldn't do it with Doctor Who because it's too important to me. Covering it as part of Type 40. It's different, but there are plenty of shows which I do that with, yeah.
I mean, if you even extend it to radio, The Archers now is repeated on a Sunday in an omnibus, and they always used to repeat EastEnders on an omnibus.
Yeah, I used to like that
for the people to catch up. I mean, that was catch-up TV then. That was an omnibus for people to catch up. Now we've got it via streaming. So my daughter at the moment is watching Criminal Minds, and she what else does she binge? She watches Sun and Sunset. She binges. She's watched Waterloo Road, and Waterloo Road is a prime example of how situations have changed because of the numbers of people binging it online. They've brought it back as a regular TV series.
That's the first time the BBC have actually done that with a popular drama, haven't they? Yes, so it was on originally for about 6 or 7 years. They ended it probably around 8 years ago, and you're quite right. They brought it back, say, 18 months ago or so, didn't they?
And my daughter, rather than watching it live, still binge watches the series. And she goes back to the older series.
And isn't that what they've done as well with Suits, the American legal drama? That's just been, it's been sort of recommissioned, hasn't it? But they're going to get a new cast. So technically it's a spin-off. But that's happened because of people discovering Suits and binge watching it on Netflix. I think that finished around 8 years ago as well.
Yeah. And the thing is, the way that people live their lives has changed. there are more people living by themselves or flat sharing because of rent, and because, and there is almost this sort of, oh, have you seen this thing called Games of Thrones? It's on Netflix. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, it's really good. Right, I'll give it a go. Oh, have you seen this thing called Games of Thrones? It's on Netflix. Oh, is it really? I'll give it a go. And then so word of mouth gets round.
That is true.
And people start binging these. They think, oh, well, if you're watching it and you say it's good, it must be good. Or, you know, what channel is it on? No, it's not on any channel. It's on Netflix.
The phrase that we all use, David, is, I'll add it to the list.
Yes. and this is it. Because people are more busy, they might be going to the gym more, they might be eating out more, they might be living different lifestyles. The lifestyle that we were all living in 2005, when we first got wind of this thing called Sky Plus, which could mean that you could pause what you were watching and then make a cup of tea, come back, and then record things to this magic box. You mean I don't have to buy any Scotch VHS E180s anymore? No, you don't. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm saying, okay, that's really good then. That's fascinating. So that has become that's become outdated now.
Yeah,
because what, record something? Oh, no, I'm just going to stream it because I'll add it to my watch list. And the thing is, things have changed so much since 2005, and I truly believe the key change came around COVID, when people were going through things that they could watch on streaming platforms to keep themselves from climbing the walls. And that, I believe, is probably, I think anyway, my viewing habits changed, because now I will look for a series and I'll go, oh, that looks good. Oh, but it's like 3 seasons of 40 episodes. No. I my daughter found Line of Duty available on the iPlayer. She just went, my God, Dad, how could you have never told me about this before? And seriously, Rosie had a weekend where she watched.
You didn't see a hair on her head for like 48 hours.
Absolutely. This is when she was 16, 15, 16. She's now an adult, but she was watched all the series of Line of Duty up to episode 4 of the current one that was transmitting at that time, over a weekend.
No, I think you're making your point very, very well. That the culture has absolutely changed. Our habits have changed, and that shows as IPs, as intellectual properties, have this other life and a way of reaching, if not a new generation of people, then certainly sort of tapping in to audiences that may have missed it the first time around. Perhaps as tastes change as well. Obviously, Doctor Who is a TV warhorse that comes with an enormous amount of baggage, doesn't it, an expectation. Yeah. It's slightly different where Doctor Who's concerned, and all these invested parties, and whichever side of the aisle that you're on, whether you feel politically invested in the concept of Doctor Who failing and falling into cancellation and disappearing, because it's an inevitability since the editorial position at the BBC has changed in the way that it has, and Doctor Who was unarguably weaponized in the culture war that never seems to end, based on the BBC's diversity and equality charter that they stick to, and they hammer the series with. All that stuff is immensely frustrating, so people do get very, very angry about it, and are very, very conscious about it. And I think that fuels a lot of us on that side of the aisle. It's something I'm very sympathetic to. There is another side to the equation as well. We've got people who feel politically very, very different. And a great many of those people as well, it's almost inconsequential, the quality of the show, or even whether they are actually enjoying it as much as they used to or not. Their investment is in the continuation of this show through hell and high water, and the endorsement of this show and the guarding the holy cows and adherence to any publicity, any puff piece the BBC may put out about such things as ratings. They will say yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full to any party line going. There are people like that who will do that simply because they agree with all those ideologies, and that's very much where they are politically. So you've got a lot of noise from both camps. In neither case, I think, does it show any party in the best of lights. It certainly sends people back into their corners, and then the bell rings and it's another round. Everybody goes at one another again. That's the real landscape surrounding the ratings of Doctor Who that we don't see with your Waterloo Roads, with Line of Duties, with anything, because people are invested in warring for possession of this cultural property, because it's so significant, because of its longevity and because of the personal attachment that we all have with. I think that's where it comes from. But statistics are statistics, aren't they? They are by their very nature hard facts. They're unalterable. So you're not debating that, but what's got under your skin a little is the way that those statistics are reported.
There are people taking active glee in saying, let's cancel this program that we love. I'm sorry, but you should be rounded up and be spoken to quite sternly, because it's a case of, it's like going to see your sports team, whether you're football, cricket, rugby, darts, snooker, whatever, netball, hockey, ice hockey. It's as if you go there, you've paid your money, you go there and you go, well, this is going to be crap, isn't it? Before the game's sort of like started. And then you're on your feet shouting odds and ends all the time about how rubbish it is, how rubbish it is, how rubbish it is. Oh, well, I wish I'd just get rid of it. Well, why'd you go? Why are you going?
I'd offer that people, in defence of that mindset, I don't think people have been taken to that place willingly. I think they've been pushed to that place. I think it's a response. I think it's a response, David, to people feeling rejected, feeling disenfranchised, belittled, and simply not wanted by those running the show.
And I was going to come on to that point because I am a lot of England football fans, and topical as it is at the moment, feel the same about Gareth Southgate. And I'm certain that Gareth Southgate and Russell T Davies are under some sort of competition with one another as to how many fans they can annoy.
So Gareth Southgate is the current England manager, isn't he? I don't watch football, but I'm told by family members he is. And I often say, David, that the job of being the showrunner of Doctor Who is the nearest thing that you can get in entertainment terms to being the England football manager.
I say it's England football manager, the England cricket captain. It's the sort of like cross that nobody wishes to bear. It's a poison chalice, and this is where the disenfranchised people maybe feel like that they're being sort of being treated like a pariah. But my comeback to the my sort of comeback to the people that produce the program and are responsible for the PR is the fact that if you are going to tell your fan base that you are prejudiced, you're outdated, you've got no place in the world, we don't care what you say, you should touch grass, you should do this, you should do that, we don't want people like you watching the show, that you are absolutely pressing the self-destruct button that blows up the whole of Gallifreyan creation.
As soon as an actor or a producer says anything like that, anything that equates to the idea that, if you've got a problem with it, then don't watch, go off and do something else. As soon as those words or any variation of that leaves anyone's lips connected with a show or movie, it is game over every single time.
And that is a criminal way to sort of like public relations. What he should have said is something like, look, times change, and Doctor Who has to change with that time. But there is something in this series for everyone.
Yeah.
We go all the way back to the first episode and refer to the fact that the Doctor is a grandfather. We mention the name Susan. We've got little sort of Easter eggs throughout the series, which people may be reminded of Genesis of the Daleks, when Ncuti steps on the mine. We have references to the one who waits. We've got almost like a Twilight Zone X-Files sort of episode,
Yeah.
such as 73 Yards, which goes
just
into
reassurance that those people, that us, because we're talking mostly about a lot of people that are of our generation and younger, come to think of it, people who've been watching since Eccleston, to reassure us that we are still wanted.
Yes. And even though it was badly done, wow, wait until the end of the season when you will see something that you've been wanting to see for years. So the way it
So I think what you're talking about is legislating for the viewer, not with hyperbole, but with true publicity and with proper inclusiveness, not manufactured inclusiveness based on some sort of arbitrary list. Proper inclusiveness, and to bang the drum, throw open the doors, fluff the cushions, and invite everybody to sit down.
Yeah, Doctor Who is about everyone. Whatever you feel, whatever you believe, whatever persuasion you are, whatever culture you're from, whatever religion you believe in, we have got something for everyone. Not everybody will enjoy everything, but there will be something for everybody within the series. And that is just saying, look, we might have some stuff that you consider that is a bit, bit too liberal for your liking. However, wow, Sutek's back, everybody, and what I believe that the PR should do is sort of like, look, you've ranted about us for too long. I'm not going to give you the oxygen of publicity by telling you to touch grass and everything like that.
So
I want to welcome you back into the fold. I think your channel is very, very balanced. And, Gary on Nerdrotic, I love watching his videos because he is very well evidenced in what he puts out. And I truly feel for the guy having to watch stuff and then review it, because my heart goes out to him, because he used to run a comic book shop. He used to have, Doctor Who watch alongs. He used to be so invested in the program, and then almost for to be spun around and him viewed to be a pariah by the producers.
Do you feel that it simply the conversation has to move on? Is that what you're saying?
What has to happen?
There are certain realities that we must accept before we move along with it.
We have to accept that times have changed with respect to how things are rated, because a 3 million viewing figure in 1989 would get you 91st in the chart. Now it gets you 10th or 11th in the weekly chart. So the way that people have watched is different. However, the ratings should still be better for the first season of a Doctor Who, a new Doctor, with Russell T Davies behind that, with all the money, with all this, that, and the other. One thing I think the crime that I've got several issues. I have got major issues with this series, so please don't think I'm
no, I don't.
A sort of like a supporter of Russell that I think the world shines out of his behind.
No, I wouldn't think that for a moment. I think that what you're saying is actually very, very valuable.
Can I just say that it does make the whole issue of him trying to take the fans on is not at all beneficial for the whole program, and I think he has to realise with Bad Wolf, with BBC, Doctor Who magazine, that there has to be a laying down of arms and almost an amnesty and an armistice, because we can't go on like this as a shattered, splintered fan base, because
No.
it does nobody any use whatsoever. And all that's going to happen is that we're going to get the 2020s version of the 1984 onwards fight that the Doctor Who Appreciation Society had with JNT and the BBC production office. And the worst thing that we can start doing is saying, look, we need to cancel this program because blah, 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 because you don't have to give that option to the BBC or studio execs, because they say, well, fine, they don't want it anymore, we won't give it to them.
Exactly.
And then we'll find ourselves back in 1989 territory,
I believe that what hasn't helped in the past is not just this campaign of complete hyperbole turned up to 11 all the time, specifically from Russell T Davies, who, generally speaking, I'm a fan of, historically over the years. I've loved pretty much all of his work. And I like that kind of showmanship that he has, or that he had, because I think he has changed. I think what people have found irritating is this insistence that we are wrong and that he knows what's good for us, what's right for us, and more than that only he is qualified to speak about what equates to success or not in these terms. This last few weeks, Russell T Davies did speak a little about the ratings, because, as you've said, the ratings should be more, and he made this next to unprecedented move of speaking publicly about it. So he said, simply while speaking to the Radio Times, he admitted it's not doing that well in the ratings. Just that simple admission there, with no fat on it. There's no zhuzhing it up in Russell T Davies style. There it is, laid bare, very vulnerable, very honest, perhaps a little too late, only a little too late, but I would argue that it's better late than never. And for Russell to admit this publicly is actually quite a good thing. Even though they've got a series already in the can to follow after this, it's, they could re-edit that. It's who knows where that's going to go. That's probably a conversation for another day. But the fact that Russell has said this publicly is a big change, isn't it, David?
It is. And what Russell badly needs now is a Terry Matalas moment. We need a Terry Matalas moment whereby you've had the first 2 seasons of Picard that have been panned, quite rightly so.
Yeah.
And it needs to go back to the drawing board of, right, what is Jean-Luc Picard, I'm using this as an example, Jean-Luc Picard all about? It's about the next generation. It's about Dr. Crusher. It's about Will. It's about Geordie. It's about Data. It's about Worf, Deanna, and them being on a spaceship. And them, and of course you can have other characters like Seven, which comes across, and a few other characters from Voyager, just as a bit of an Easter egg. But the difference between Picard Series 1 and 2 and Series 3, I thought, blimey, we've got the next generation back.
It was a drastic difference, and I believe that, yes, we are in a similar place at the moment with all new Doctor Who, just 9 episodes in to the Ncuti Gatwa era, a massive disappointment, a massive frustration, again born out of what was on screen and what wasn't. Come to think of it, there are things that simply haven't worked.
This is the most upsetting part of it. Russell T Davies used to pride himself.
Are you trying to suggest to me that Russell T Davies has made a hash of it this time? You could be right. When I look at the ratings, David, and there can't be any doubt that they're disappointing. If Russell's admitted they're not the figures that they were looking for, that they were hoping for, that they were aiming for with a series like Doctor Who, this huge intellectual property on the global stage now, they have hammered home how this is a flagship show with huge aspirations for this particular reinvention. To suddenly to fall back and say, no, we're happy with 2 million viewers, that's not going to fly. There's no way, there's no convincing people that that's reality. So, okay, we've had this tiny admission there from Russell. Do you think that fans can now, you would appeal to fans to maybe fall back a little? People on both sides of the aisle to sort of to give things time to breathe, because it's happened now, and the series is having that extended life on the BBC iPlayer, so it's going to be up indefinitely to watch there. Disney Plus, I would imagine, is largely the same. They do now and again remove things from Disney Plus. Their own productions, stuff like Willow, that they 100% made themselves through Lucasfilm. You can't watch that on their platform anymore. I think Doctor Who's going to stay there for a long time. I think that's the plan, certainly as long as the second series is available. So do you advise that we, for now, swallow our disappointment and frustration and even embarrassment or delight for the people out there who are enjoying seeing the ratings fall? Because I know there are people who are. I haven't enjoyed it. I don't enjoy seeing Doctor Who. Even the episodes that I don't like. I mean, like Rogue, I hated. There's been several things that I've hated. Even that, I still don't enjoy seeing this series lose more and more dignity with fewer and fewer people watching it. But there are people who will get a kick out of that. Do you think that people should kind of move on from that now and think, okay, what happened? Let's see what happens during the extended life of the show, and more to the point where we are at Christmas?
I don't like seeing people kicking a sort of like an injured animal or an injured sort of dog, we could call this. I don't like. It just feels a bit tasteless to me, because I think, kicking a wounded animal is not a good thing. What I think should be done is that I think the production team, and people probably think I'm living in some sort of utopia and it'll never happen, but I do believe that they are aware of the bad press that's going on. And I do believe that they can't be immune to it, and they will be aware of what people are saying, and people who have watched the show for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a little bit of humble pie eating, and I do think that there needs to be a sort of, look, we said some things. We probably didn't mean it like that. We're sorry. We do listen to you. We do listen to your thoughts. We do listen to your suggestions. Can we try and work together now to, build the bridges, and have a bit more of a coming together? Why it is stupid beyond all belief to slag off the people that love your product and to say, don't watch it then. I know I used that argument early on about the football club, but I don't get the mentality of either watching something because you hate it, or hating the people that watch it. So it sort of mirrors itself, if you see what I mean.
I think it's the definition.
Behavior.
Yeah, I think it's the definition of toxic. I think there's a toxic culture around the brand at the moment, around the show, which means that almost anything that is good on screen, and there have been good elements to the recent season, which we've spoken about on Type 40 Live and Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, in the last few weeks. There have been, but it's almost as if we're not allowed to talk about those.
No.
Or they're inconsequential. It doesn't matter because the culture is actually more important than the show. And I see how we've got here, And it isn't the fans' fault. We have been collectively pushed there, but I think how we respond to it is up to us, is within our control, and perhaps we could behave with more dignity, and maybe we do have to. I think expecting the makers of the show to take the lead with that, they're clearly not going to. Obviously, in an ideal world, they could. They haven't. So perhaps it's maybe the fans can, maybe we can. We shouldn't have to, but maybe we should prove that we are the adults in the room after all. I don't know. Do you feel a bit better for having got this out, but blowing off a bit of steam with me today, David?
I do, because I think what people have to understand is that things change, variables change, and everything does change. I know there will be people hanging on to the fact that, you know, that this will never change, and that Jimmy Greaves was still the best striker that England ever had, irrespective of who's replaced him. And there are people like that, and fair enough. If you're one of those people, hats off to you. Wonderful. You're not necessarily right, though, but I respect your opinion, but you're wrong. But so, and I also think that to carry on, and the whole thing that you just mentioned is your Bernoulli's box sort of situation, whereby the behaviour of the production team affects our attitude, which affects our behaviour, which affects the attitude of the production team.
Yeah.
So
it's circular again. These things are circular.
And at the moment, it's sort of like, well, you said this mean thing about my script, so I'm going to annoy you by putting this reference in. Well, the reason why I said this about your script is that it had more holes in it than the A38. You know,
I think we're looking again at social media there. Obviously, where several writers, not so much. Well, there's only Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, and the two women from Loki that have written on this series. But when Chibnall was running the show, we've got actual writers, commissioned writers with their names on screen and the credits of Doctor who were on X and Instagram, or Twitter as X was called then, arguing with the fan base, literally calling them names in publicly in a public space like that. Terrible look. Doctor Who season 1, of course, is up on the BBC iPlayer and Disney Plus if you want to go back over those episodes or catch up with them, or do what David's daughter's intending on doing and go to watch them all probably in one afternoon by the sounds of it, David. So it's all there at the push of a button.
Do you know what? Rosie came down to me the other night and said, because my daughter lives between here and my mum, her mum's, and she said to me, "Dad, can we watch some Doctor Who?" I went, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, that one with Ace and the baseball bat and the Daleks." I said, "Yeah," and she said, "I like that story." And so we sat down and watched Remembrance of the Daleks. And she said, "Oh, this is fantastic." And what I also want to mention is the fact that a lot of TV producers and a lot of executives think that young people can't watch things for more than half an hour or 45 minutes. That's a load of rubbish. They can, and they do. And they're not just interested in 30-second TikTok clips and things like that. And some people are, but also, you know, for somebody, and my son is the same, he'll binge watch stuff, and his mates do as well, and Rosie's mates do as well. And they'll watch stuff that lasts for, you know, they'll watch 4 one-hour episodes all in one go. So for Russell to say, no, they just want boom, bang, ting, tang, boom, every 5 seconds, he's just
it's
he doesn't.
Russell that's behind the times. I think a lot of the problems that we've seen this year, both
so
on
behind the times.
and off screen, are down to Russell T Davies simply being behind the curve on where popular culture actually is, not asking the right people or not listening to the people who could probably inform him, and surrounding himself, I'd say, with yes men and women. That's certainly how it looks.
I'm a big fan. Thank you. Just
all right, good to see you.
come on, man. Nice to meet you, mate.
All the best. Take care.
That's Doctor Who. I just met Doctor Who. Stop playing with me, bro. This is the type of places we be at. We meet Doctor Who. What are you doing?
What are we doing? Yeah, we're talking about ratings, statistics, the current culture at Doctor Who, around Doctor Who, myself and David here. But what do you think about all of this? Have we got sorted anything between us? Probably not. I think our attempt to quarterize this in the last however long is probably going to be in vain, but it helps to vent a little. And if you want to join in, you can do that through our social media. That's Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who. You can add your opinions about all of this or drop us a comment, of course. David, I know.
Lovely.
Doesn't that make you feel better now?
Oh, it does. I feel sort of like, actually, that could be a great episode for Russell, couldn't it be? Invasion of the Cats.
Oh,
yeah.
He'd never commission it. Thank you for your company this time, David. Come back and tell us some more. By all means, we'll keep in touch and we'll get you back on to talk about whatever else gets that goat again. Have we retrieved the goat for you this time? Do you think it could escape? It could go off the leash again?
The goat has come back and offered its apologies and said that it'll try and behave a bit better in the future. So it's even brought the donkey back with it. So
even better.
The all's one in my world again. So
excellent. All is well, all over again. We'll see you in the comments. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers.